Welcome back. Well, this morning, King Charles III is on U.S. soil. The monarch, along with his wife, Queen Camilla, touched down yesterday at Joint Base Andrews and was welcomed at the White House by President Trump. Today, the visit shifts into high gear with a wreath laying in Arlington, an address before a joint session of Congress, and a state dinner back at the White House. The high-stakes visit is the first trip to America for the king, for Charles as king, and it comes at a moment of global tension for this special relationship between the U.S. and the United Kingdom. So let's dig deeper with Emory history professor Dr. Patrick Allitt. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for inviting me.
So, Professor Allitt, there have been clear tensions between the U.S. and the U.K., the war in Iran, among other issues. In fact, a lot of folks in the U.K. were outraged that the monarch still made this state visit. So, King Charles is looking to help ease these tensions. But why should everyday Americans care about the U.S.-U.K. relationship? How does it impact them?
One of the most surprising aspects of Anglo-American history is how much the Americans love the monarchy. Because the Americans fought a war of independence to get away from it, it would be reasonable to expect Americans to heartily dislike everything about the royal family. But they don't. They love it. And the British government makes use of that love to send the king in the hope that he can help restore good relations.
So talk about what's at stake. You know, I mentioned Iran. There's also tensions over trade, tariffs. What is the king looking to smooth over on this visit?
Well, first of all, he'll be very careful not to talk about policy questions. His job is to act as the head of state. Obviously, in the United States, the president is head of state and head of government. But in Britain, the prime minister is head of government and the king is head of state. So he'll just emphasize the long, friendly relationship between the two powers. And implicitly, he'll be saying, let's make sure that the issues which are currently causing stress between us don't overwhelm the long and very successful history we've had of cooperating with each other.
And we know President Trump responds to the royal family. He reveres them. He has spoken about that in the past. In fact, he mentioned that he thought that King Charles could help the relationship with the UK. So talk about what you expect to see from President Trump, from King Charles over the next few days.
Well, I think that they'll make gestures of continued friendship and mutual support, because from the president's point of view, King Charles is a completely unthreatening figure. He's not going to make any demands. He's not going to raise any awkward questions about Iran or about tariffs or about any of the other issues which are currently causing political tension. And of course, it's wonderful from President Trump's point of view to have the King of England by his side, because it makes him look like a very important person, even measuring himself against, one of the toughest yardsticks in the world.
Right. We know that matters a lot to the president. And a big moment today, of course, King Charles speaking before Congress, something his mother, Queen Elizabeth, did in 1991. So what do you expect the king to say in that speech?
He'll say that although Britain and America fought a war against each other 250 years ago, and then another one in 1812, that ever since then they've had uninterrupted friendly relations, that there were many times in the 1800s and 1900s when they were potentially at odds, but they've always been very careful to smooth over the differences, because their joint partnership as the foundations of an Anglo-American civilization has always been central to world progress. So I think it'll be a lot of grand generalizations, especially when he addresses Parliament, and that he'll mention things like American aid to Britain in the First World War and their joint venture in D-Day in 1944, and the fact that together they saw off the Soviet Union in the end of the 1980s. When Queen Elizabeth came in 91, she was talking about the Gulf War, which had just been successfully concluded against Saddam Hussein. So the point will be, it's a long and fruitful and friendly relationship which must continue.
So some parallels with the Iraq War then, the Iran War now, a tough time both times in history. I really appreciate you providing that context. Thank you so much for being with us on 11 Alive this morning.
Sure, it's a great pleasure. Thanks, Rachel.